Poland's new president-elect is expected to continue the conservative course set by his predecessor Andrzej Duda, including the use of a veto power to block liberal reforms proposed by Prime Minister Donald Tusk's government. Karol Nawrocki, nominated by the right-wing opposition party, won last week's presidential election by a narrow margin. Under Poland's constitution, the president is elected for a 5-year term, serves as a commander-in-chief, appoints the government and has the authority to veto legislation. In a political system where power is shared with a minister, the presidency can be both symbolic and highly consequential. So, what does this election outcome mean for Poland's democracy, its future relations with the European Union and the balance of power in one of the NATO's most strategically important member states? All the answers in our next report.
My dears, we won.
Even before the final votes were counted, pro-European liberal politician and Warsaw mayor Rafał Trzaskowski began celebrating what he believed was a victory. But the celebration was short-lived. Trzaskowski miscalculated. In the second round of Poland's presidential election, he narrowly lost by less than 2% to the candidate from the right-wing opposition. 42-year-old Karol Nawrocki, a historian with no prior political background, is Poland's new president-elect. He defeated his liberal rival by just 370,000 votes. Throughout the campaign, Nawrocki made it clear he intends to continue the conservative course of outgoing President Andrzej Duda, who frequently used his veto power to block legislation from Prime Minister Donald Tusk's pro-European government. Analysts say had Warsaw Mayor Trzaskowski won, it would have given the Tusk administration a freer hand to push through liberal reforms, including changes on abortion laws and minority rights.
So Poland has this mixed model when indeed the president's role is to represent Poland, is more ceremonial, but also he can veto the drafts of law that are being passed by the parliament. So he has a direct influence on what reforms, what laws are coming into force. And still, I mean, there is on the way, and it was one of the promises, very important promises, to restore the rule of law according to the judgments of the European courts. It's not going to happen because Karol Nawrocki can and will block all the reforms.
President-elect Karol Nawrocki is widely seen in Poland as a Eurosceptic, but with a difference. Unlike other regional skeptics, such as Slovakia's Robert Fico or Hungary's Viktor Orban, Nawrocki remains firmly in support of military aid to Ukraine. That position, he says, will not change. However, Nawrocki has also made it clear that he opposes Ukraine's membership in NATO. He enjoys strong backing from US President Donald Trump and has openly endorsed Trump's political views. The two met last month. Analysts say Nawrocki's victory marks a win for all European conservatives who take inspiration from Trump's agenda.
So Nawrocki is definitely pro-Trump. He was obviously showing it during the electoral campaign. He is, I would say, in the line, even maybe more radical in his thoughts about the European Union than Meloni, but stands somewhere next to Orban. So also it's a very difficult situation for the European Union and for the model of the European Union.
The newly elected president has expressed skepticism toward Brussels' policies on energy and migration. Analysts say Karol Nawrocki is also likely to limit the government's room for maneuver in foreign affairs. However, Poland's charge d'affaires in Kazakhstan, Michal Labenda, remains confident that the country's overall foreign policy direction will remain unchanged. He also emphasized that no tensions are expected between Warsaw and Brussels, including within the framework of Poland's EU commitments.
You have to remember that Poland is a parliamentary republic. So the leading voice in the internal and external policy, it's in the hands of the Prime Minister. According to the Constitution, the government shapes all the policies of the country in cooperation with President. President has his right to veto any law which was proposed by the Parliament, but the Parliament has also the right to reject this veto in his works.
Voters across the political spectrum in the capital, Warsaw, voiced sharply contrasting views, reflecting a deeply divided electorate. Karol Nawrocki's narrow victory, with 50.89% of the votes, suggests that at least half the country is clearly dissatisfied with the outcome.
But how small this margin was, it tells us how divided we are, almost split in half as voters.
I think we should have at least 3 candidates, because many polls unfortunately chose the lesser evil for them. I respect the choice of each voter. We are kind of 50-50 practically. I hope that the president will be above all this and will provide us with a safe future here in Poland.
Be that as it may, both candidates pledged in their speeches to build bridges in a divided society. Now the task of uniting a polarized Poland falls on the shoulders of Prime Minister Tusk and the newly elected president.
These elections are very important because the turnout was very high, and the president-elect, the winning candidate, he almost reached the record victory of Lech Walesa during our first democratic presidential elections. So this is the sign of the true democratic campaign.
Today, Poland stands as one of the largest and most influential members of the European Union. It is rapidly expanding its military capabilities and plays a key role on NATO's eastern flank. In this sense, while the outcome of Poland's presidential election may not dramatically shift the country's foreign policy, it certainly sends a strong signal to the outside world about the prevailing mood in this part of Europe. Daurinas Agulov, New Time.